Many of you have watched my Longbow Dagger guide, but unfortunately, that guide was made in Korea about 2 weeks before the global release. Unfortunately, Amazon Games and NCSoft have decided that they will do some ninja changes before the global release, so a lot of the gear builds and a lot of the plans that people had for the gear builds have been changed. Many gear items have been shuffled around to different open world bosses and different dungeons, and every build that every player had planned had to be updated and changed. After many days of experimentation and brainstorming and testing, I have decided that there are only 2 viable Longbow Dagger gear builds currently available in-game in Tier 1. So in this video I'm gonna show you an early T1 blue gear build, and then I'm gonna show you 2 different builds, one for Tublek weapon and one for Karnik's weapon. There have also been some minor changes to skill specialization as well, so I have also adjusted and updated that, and I'm gonna show you that at the end of the video. Also in description and pinned comment there's going to be a quest logger link that's gonna have all of the information about the gear builds and skill builds that I mentioned in this video. Starting with the early Tier 1 blue gear build. As you can see, the goal with this blue build is to have 60 perception and 30 strength. And the reason for that is if you're a PvP player, you will know how important ranged and hit chance is in PvP. This build doesn't have that high of an evasion, but with dagger passives you can get pretty high evasions, while all of the other stats like critical hit chance and hit chance are more than enough for PvP, and they will also perform really well in PvE. I don't want to spend much time explaining and going over each of these items, where you can get them. They're all farmable and easily obtainable in open world dungeons and normal dungeons. But if you're curious where they drop and you cannot find it in the game, that's because some of the content hasn't been unlocked. And the only other way that you can check where some item drops is by clicking on an item on this page and clicking on this view in database. It's going to open a new link, and going down here you can see where it can be obtained. And this one says that it can be obtained from dungeons, Cave of Destruction. You can do that for any gear piece that you are interested in. Now the 2 main Tier 1 endgame builds that are using fully purple gear. One is using Tublek weapon and one is using Karnik's weapon. And everything else is exactly the same. The only difference is in stat allocation, and the only difference is in the weapon that you use. Choosing which weapon to use isn't a preference. It's the matter of facts and stats show that Tublek is a better option. Both of the builds can achieve 60 perception, which is really good. Karnik's bow can reach 50 strength, which is going to give you 100 heavy attack chance, but Tublek can have a more balanced stat allocation with 30 strength, 40 dexterity and 30 wisdom, unlocking bonus damage, critical hit chance, max health and max mana with 60 perception. Both of these builds are using exactly the same gear, and the reason for that is because this is the gear build that can achieve 1000 hit chance. And as I mentioned before, for PvP players, hit chance is the king stat, as well as evasion, where we also can reach almost 900 ranged evasion and over 1000 magic evasion, while critical hit chance is over 1000 and max health is 12,295. But probably the best thing about this gear build is that 11 out of 13 gear items is easily obtainable through open world dungeon farming, normal dungeons and open world farming. I'm not gonna go over and show you exactly where you can drop each of these items, but like I said, you click on an item, you go into this view in database, a new window will open, and as you can see, it drops from an NPC black boars. This helmet can be farmed in open world, killing black boars in Pure Light Hill, but it can also be obtained through precious blessing pouches. It can also be obtained as a reward in lithographs by putting these 4 blue helmets, and you can just claim it as a reward. And you can also craft it if you buy a lithograph on an auction house. So if you're interested in any of these items, click on it, go into view in database, new window will open, and figure out where it drops. Because in game you will not be able to see where some of these items drops, because currently not all content is unlocked. For example, this etched alabaster band, you will not be able to see in game that it drops from Demon Hoof Tracker and Demon Hoof Head Shaman, which are mobs in Sylvius Abyss floor 5 and 6. You will only be able to see that you can craft it using a lithograph, and from a box that you can craft with using Abyss tokens. But it can also be obtained through farming mobs. So use questlog.gg to figure out where each item drops. Now, while both 2Black and Carnix give you relatively the same stats, the reason why 2Black is better because of the range. 2Black has, as a weapon, 19 meters range. With other stats it goes to 23, and with attack range increase of 20%, this can go to 27.5 meters. While Carnix has 16 meter range, 19.18 with stats, and with 20% it goes to 23.5% range. So 2Black has almost 4 meter more range, and in PvP that is insanely high. Another great thing about this build, other than all the gear items being farmable, is that many of the items aren't going to have max health as a trait. Instead, you will want to go for mana regen. This chest piece, gloves, trousers all have mana regen, which, as you probably already noticed, Longbow Dagger is a very mana hungry build. But with this build you will have almost 700 mana regen. Add a mana potion, add some mana food, and you can easily never run out of mana and just constantly spam your rotation. Another great thing about 2Black being better than Carnix is cooldown reduction. Carnix has cooldown reduction of 3%, while 2Black has 16.2%, and cooldown reduction for Longbow Dagger is very important as well. So now you're probably asking yourself, why am I showing you both of these builds if 2Black is obviously superior than Carnix? Well, in a situation where you might drop Carnix as a reward from doing that Abyss, and you may never even obtain 2Black as a drop, or you may never even try to craft it, you have a secondary option of playing Carnix. It happened to me. I dropped Carnix as a drop from running one Death Abyss, so now I'm using Carnix bow, but I'm probably going to swap to 2Black as soon as I get it as a drop. So to finally decide what am I going to play, right now I have a Carnix bow, but I will be playing 2Black build. Why? Because it's better, it has more range, it has more cooldown reduction, and it has more stats that are allocated equally. And it triggers my OCD when I see stats like 22 wisdom. This is perfectly in order. If you have any questions about this gear build, please let me know in the comments. I will answer all of them, I read all of them, and I will answer all of your questions about the gear build. And next, let me quickly show you what I changed in my skill specialization. In PvE, I removed Frenzied Sword Dance and I replaced it with Flash Wave. Going into skill specialization, I removed damage increase from Zephyr's Knock, and I removed mana cost reduction from Lightning Infusion, and I put those points into Flash Wave. The reason why I did that is because Flash Wave is kinda strong in large scale PvP, and you want to level that skill anyways for PvP, and might as well use it in PvE as you're already gonna level it to level 5. Other than that, I removed this Destructive Fang passive skill because it doesn't give crit anymore. I replaced it with Distorted Sanctuary because it increases health recovery, and I also added Earth's Blessing because it also increases healing. And with Flash Wave and Nature's Blessing combination, you can literally heal all 5 of your teammates from 0 to 100 in literally like 5 seconds. So basically, you're playing Longbow Dagger, you have insane damage, and you're an offhand healer as well. In small scale PvP, I also removed Destructive Fang and I replaced it with Distorted Sanctuary, and I only removed damage increase from Zephyr's Knock in all 3 of my skill builds, and I put it into hit chance on Ensnaring Arrow. As you can see, Ensnaring Arrow has an 80% chance to bind the target, and adding additional 20% means that you have 100% hit chance, but some players might have hit resistance and hit reduction, so there won't always be a 100% chance to bind someone, but it's close to 100%. Other than that, everything remains relatively the same for the small scale, and for large scale build I removed Inject Venom and I replaced it with Phantom Smokescreen for more defensive stats and blocking projectiles. Also removed Destructive Fang from passive skills, as well replaced it with Distorted Sanctuary and added Earth's Blessing because I'm using Flash Wave. In skill specialization, I also removed damage increase from Zephyr's Knock, added it here, added all of this so I can use Ensnaring Arrow high hit chance to stun someone and then blast them with Decisive Bombardment, while using Flash Wave AoE, Limit Break Flash Wave AoE again on large scale groups and blasting everyone, keeping the tornado for engages or disengages. While on the dagger side, only using range for catching of strays with Shadow Strike and using CC immunity on Camouflage Cloak when I need to escape. And this pretty much covers this update video. I wanted to keep it relatively short and not ramble too much. If you have any questions, like I said, ask them in the comments, I will answer them all. I am 95% sure that I will not be updating this gear build anymore, so feel free to use it as I am personally already using it. As you can see, I have Carnix's bow that kinda dropped randomly. I already have a tunic, I already have Clasp of the Conqueror, I have Ancient Tapestry Mantle, I have bracers, and I'm using belt from Butcher's Canyon until the open world boss unlocks and I'm able to either buy it or get it as a drop. But basically I've decided I will be swapping this Carnix's bow to a 2-block bow, and I will be keeping the build that I showed you in the questlog.gg link. I will not be changing this build, so you can rest assured if you think that this build is crap and you think that this build is weak and you don't want to use it, well, you can always remember that I am personally using it, and if you think it's bad, then that's up to you really. I really tried hard to make a build that is easy to farm and that doesn't require you to spend any money. You can literally grind anything that is available in the game. Like, it doesn't get better than this. Like, you get insanely good stats, insanely good range, and it is easily obtainable by any free-to-play player. In any case, let me know what you decide to play, if you're gonna use this, if you're not gonna use it, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, consider subscribing and watch some of my other videos appearing on your screen.